Welcome to the Alternative Products Podcast, the ultimate hub for counterculture enthusiasts and innovators. Whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting out, we've got you covered. So sit back, relax, and let's explore the world of alternative products together. Hi, good afternoon, good evening, good morning. This is Jason Monti with Alternative Products Expo. I'm one of the co-founders here. Sitting to my left is Chad Wade. So Chad, I know that you're a man who wears quite a few hats.
I do.
We're going to kind of get into that in a moment or two. First, I want to thank you, obviously, coming down to Dallas.
I'm glad to be here.
Appreciate you so much. You've had a minute to kind of walk around our trade show and give it a look, and I'll get into your first impressions, obviously, in a minute or two. But why don't you give us a little introduction on kind of who you are, and we'll get into a little history of how you got started in this industry.
Well, I got started on the other end of the industry, honestly. I used to sell the filler part of the pipes, and the state didn't like that, so they shut that down.
Okay.
You know, obviously gave me a little vacation time for it too, and you know, made sure that I learned my lesson. And so upon coming out, I learned that hey, I still like this industry, but I'm the Hank Hill of this industry, by the way, but I no longer sell the propane, I sell the accessories.
Got it.
You know, so now we have retail stores, we have a wholesale operation, but now we've started doing the Chad Wade TV.
Yep.
And so that's kind of how we all got together. And but I'm just trying to teach you. This is what I'm doing. I'm tired of watching these lies on YouTube and on Facebook and on TikTok. And so what we're trying to do is get a little more education out there and helping them understand that you are not going to start a shop for $1,500.
Right.
Now, could you start a flea market operation? Yeah, you could probably get something going.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's going to take a little more money. It's going to take the proper license. It's going to take the proper sales tax numbers. You need an EIN number. You know, you've got to play by their rules. That's why they're there.
Now, do you find that most people that are trying to start out in this industry, and we'll call it alternative products industry, where you're talking about electronic cigarettes, vape, different cannabis derivatives,
Right.
the deltas, your HHCs, that there's some bad information out there that you're taking a little bit of an onus on to
it's
get
terrible.
good information?
It's terrible with all if you watch my TV, you watch my YouTube channel, I'm really big on calling them lies. You know, they and I just wanted to stop that. They tell all these tales of, well, just because they say you can't sell it, you can really sell it. It's not a big deal. You just go over the state line and pick it up. Well, you know, that's an interstate commerce law, and now the feds show up instead of the state.
Right.
And I'm not a fan. You know, I don't want to be involved with the alphabet gang.
How many retail locations do you currently have right now?
I had 6. We've whittled it down to 3 because of the work shortage.
Yep.
And we're having a problem with that too, you know, even as large as we are. And we still have a pretty good operation, but you can't keep employees.
When did you open your first retail establishment?
The first thing we opened in 2007, and so we got started in 2007. But that was a flea market operation, and we developed. That's why I know so much about it.
Got it.
And so we developed that for several years. And you know, my wife is real quick to tell you that for the first 6 years of our marriage, you know, coming back from prison,
Yeah.
that I couldn't go nowhere.
Right.
And so I couldn't do anything, you know. And so as we were building this business, I wouldn't go nowhere. It was ridiculous.
Things are limited in that circumstance, coming
Right.
out with some history,
Right.
not as employable as maybe as you
Exactly.
were. Then the entrepreneurial spirit kind of kicks in and says, you know what, I can maybe do
I
something.
can do it myself.
Yeah.
And so now I know that it's possible for these people to do it themselves.
Yeah.
And even if they don't believe it, I can show you how to do it. But more importantly, I just want them to know that you don't have an excuse, because
Right.
I should not be where I am today,
Right.
statistically. And I tell them this, and it's easy to find. You can Google me. It's unreal, the story. I do have a book coming out. We're not here to promote a book. Not here to promote a book.
Maybe at another
But
interview.
maybe at another time. But it is coming out. But we are. I just hate to hear these people say, "Well, Chad, I can't do it."
Right.
You're lying.
Right.
It's not I can't. It's I won't.
Right.
And so that's what I'm trying to let these people understand. No, you can't do it for cheap, but you can do it correctly.
Right. Yeah, we like to say a lot of the times that success only comes before work in the dictionary. You got to
Yeah.
just put your head down, get
Yes.
to it. If there's something
Right.
that you want, work hard enough.
Right.
When you come to, and I'll backtrack a little bit. So you've been in this world of retail for a while now.
Yes.
You're talking 15, 16, 17 plus years.
Yes.
Dealing with having to stock shelves, dealing with customers.
On, tape gun, do
Yep.
it, price gun, do it all.
We've noticed at a lot of our conventions, our trade shows, that we have a lot of these types of folks that are just either getting started
Yep.
or really looking to get into starting their own business in and around these products.
Right.
And that's really sometimes what a trade show is kind of good for. Got to see who's out there, meet some manufacturers, etc. So I guess my question for you is, knowing what you know now, if you could rewind to 2006, 2007, 2008, when you getting started, how would you take advantage of like a trade show?
I mean, I would come in and I'd be prepared to stay the whole time. The moment that thing opened, and I didn't, because it took us a few years to learn to go. We were going to other trade shows, and of course you guys wasn't around then.
Yeah.
But now that I found this, wow. But we'll get into that later.
Yeah.
But anyway, so when we first got started, we went to another show besides the competitor.
Yep.
Right, and we were going to it. And it was a small part, and they called it a bazaar at the time. So you know what I'm talking about.
Yep.
So we went there, and then we found out we were dealing a lot with a lot of the Asians, and they don't want you to buy, one of this, one of this, one of this. They want you to buy cases
Yeah, bulk.
of all this.
Yep.
And so we would do that, but then we would have just one type of pipe. We were able to buy a few things. And we would get it usually from one vendor. We were making relationships, don't
Sure.
get me wrong. And then we met another group that was there, and we were buying some things from them as well. That over a period of time grew into something. But, basically you learn relationships.
Right.
And when you go to a trade show, you're able to talk to somebody one-on-one. You're able to build relationships with that salesperson. And, I already knew that from my former life.
Right.
That's how you build that situation. And then at one point that those second group of people that we got a hold of offered me something magic. Terms.
Yeah.
Magic.
Terms are a wonderful.
It's a wonderful.
I guess what is that? A 5-letter word.
Right.
In this industry.
Right.
That makes a lot of sense, because for retail, it's the cash flow management of what can I spend on, how quickly can I turn a product, how quickly do I have to restock, when do I have to pay this vendor. That becomes a real mathematical equation that I'm not sure that a lot of people in retail understand, that type of cadence of money in, money out.
When I on Chadway TV, we talk a lot about making these payments. Everybody thinks I'm joking. I literally pay my credit card today every single day.
Yeah.
If that money comes in and I owe the vendor, I pay him. I pay them. I pay everybody on the card that I owe by card, or I ACH that money right out of the account. I know it's pretty popular to say cash is trash.
Right.
But in this economy, that's not necessarily true.
No, not at all.
That's not necessarily true. So, but I do want my bills paid.
Yes.
And I think that's the most important thing. And when we talk about that, everybody's like, well, Chad, what happens if a deal comes around? Well, if you can't pay that anyway, because you already owe.
Right.
So even if it's just MasterCard, Visa, or American Express, you owe them, and you're not going to be able to take advantage if you don't pay your bills.
Right.
So I'm constantly doing it. Everybody thinks I'm OCD about it, but it's not OCD, it's responsible.
Yeah.
And I want to be responsible to the vendors, and I want to make sure everybody understands you told these people you would pay it. Even if it's just a credit card, you filled out a form or anything of that nature, you're still telling somebody you're going to pay it.
Yeah.
And so I think it's important for them to pay it.
What do you do? So, I've been in and around this industry since about 2014. The ebbs and flows of certain products, they get hot. You want to get in on it because that's what the customers are going to want when they come in.
Right.
This cash flow management that you're talking about, pay your vendors because they're going to be important when you need them in the future.
Yeah, and the next product comes.
Yeah, and I was going to ask, so when you come to, and we'll just maybe stick with events for right now, when you come to an event like this or a trade show, what is it that you're looking for, or maybe you're trying to keep an eye on, say, is that product going to be the next hit? Well,
so the more I see at your show especially, I can see in your show certain types of products that are coming in, and I'm starting to see more and more and more of, say, mushroom products.
Yep.
You know, just to go ahead and throw it out there.
No,
I think that's
absolutely.
the next big thing.
It's a hot category.
And why it's hot right this second, I think it's only going to grow. I think you're going to start seeing flavors in it. I think you're going to start seeing it. I think you're going to start seeing it with something besides Delta 8 products in it.
Yep.
I think you're going to start seeing more healthier products with it. It's going to get cleaner.
Yep.
You know, just like Kratom. You remember Kratom at one time was a dirtier substance.
Sure.
And now, you know, like I tasted some yesterday. I'll just throw it out there. Mid Wellness. I tried. I saw, you know,
Yeah.
Frank sitting over here talking the other yesterday, and I tried his product that they've got going on over there.
It's
Pretty
always
clean.
It's always been that issue, and I even think about when you go back to even vape and electronic cigarettes when they first became popular, is that the supply and the quality was always an issue until they figured it out. Right, nicotine. I remember they had problems with nicotine back in the day.
Right.
VG, PG. They had issues with quality control and consistency of supply. And then now we saw it when CBD started to become derivative based with the deltas and the HHs, is that there was a quality control issue till they figured it out.
Right.
So since you brought up mushrooms, I think that you're 100% right that might be the next category. But it seems to be, and we've had a lot of good conversations while we've been here, is that we got to figure out supply and quality control.
I think supply is the big thing.
Yeah.
So, you know, mushrooms don't just grow the way they think they should.
Right.
I mean, they can be grown in aquariums and in
Sure.
controlled environment, but it's still got to grow.
Yeah.
So at some point, I even believe you're going to see a synthetic. And I think that's coming. And I think we have to be very careful of that, you know, because then the alphabet gang gets involved.
Of course.
And they said, hey, look, man, you know, as soon as the FDA starts talking about it, we got a problem.
Yeah.
And then if the FDA starts talking, the DEA starts talking about it. So I don't want these people involved in anything. So we need that stopped, and we need to figure that out. And I wish the industry had a standards board. I mean, if that makes sense.
No, I know they've tried it with some other, like I know there's been advocacy, but there's never been the standardization, I think is what you're
Right,
talking about.
yeah,
There's never
that's
been
what
a
I want.
A solid internal policing mechanism to make sure that, hey, marketing, quality, etc., stays
Right.
kind of within these guidelines so we're not constantly under the
Under
watchful eye.
scrutiny. Under scrutiny
Yeah.
from these people.
Absolutely.
But I, you know, man, honestly, greed takes over. You know, everybody's own self-interest takes over. You know, we've got something in the Kratom Association, you know, American Kratom Association, and they've done a pretty good job.
They've done a pretty good job.
But it's a lot about advocacy for
Yes.
them. And so I think in the end, you know, there's a hemp, you know, group too. And
Yes.
so we're gonna see more, I think, of that. But I just don't want the mushrooms thrown in with it.
Yeah, well, I think that once you find those mushrooms or whatever it might be, whether it's mushrooms this month or whatever it is in
Right.
the future, the second that they become available into this industry through a store or through a wholesaler or distributor, they end up becoming now under a little bit of a microscope. So
Right.
whatever it may be, I do agree that there's probably a need across the board in each sector of this industry to just kind of have some checks and balances.
I just think they need to have a standards and practices.
Yeah.
I think that's what it's going to take, and I think it's going to legitimize and get us out of the alternative category.
Right.
And rather be, you know, because we're really coming into our own here. I never thought I would see this.
Yeah.
You know, and there's a lot of guys locked down for what's legal now.
Yes.
And that's kind of ridiculous too, but you know, this isn't what this is about.
Yeah, no, and we totally agree. Just kind of bringing it back real quick to your experience, your messaging that you're trying to get out there through your channel, because really you're advocating as well for, I think, those independent retailers looking to really get started
I am.
in this space.
Yeah.
But, you know, for the manufacturers that like, so when you come to a trade show, just to make sure everybody understands kind of what we do here, is we have manufacturers that come, they set up booths, they set up big sponsorships and whatnot, and their goal is to engage with retail store owners, independent retailers, and the public, the people who buy these products.
Right.
So what is something that you've, you know, if you had some advice to give to maybe some of the manufacturers on what they should be looking for out of, you know, if they see a buyer approach their booth, maybe what are some of the conversations that you as a buyer who owns retail would like to have with a manufacturer?
So I like, I have a wholesale as well.
Yep.
So what I like to do when somebody contacts us, and we show at another show, let's don't talk about that. But anyway, that was then, this is now. And but what we like to do there is I want to get to know the human.
Right.
I want to know more about the shop. I want to know how many employees you got. I don't care about the money. The money don't matter to me. I mean, you're going to have to pay for the bill, don't get me wrong. But do you need the products that we sell?
Right.
What other products like I'm selling are you selling? I like to know these things, but more importantly, I want to know the human.
Yeah.
And I think that's the most important. But I'll just tell you, at your show, I'm seeing that.
Yeah.
I'm seeing that at your show. These guys want to talk and they get to know you. You've got time to come here. It's not, insanely loud. You can talk to folks and the people are there to speak with you. And you've got time to talk to them here. And that's what I'm finding being blown away with. I'm blown away with that but I think that's what the a wholesaler has to do, or a manufacturer has to do, is get to know the human and understand their needs and their wants. But I think they're doing a good job of that here.
Yeah, I think so as well. And it's funny because I came from sales. I've been in sales one function or another since 1997. Not to age myself, but that's always been the case, is that human element. And going through COVID, which we all kind of, obviously our lives all drastically changed. When you're a trade show organizer going through something like that, not only was it terrifying, but it also, when we got back to it, it was like, oh, this has really been a missing element for the last year and a half, 2 years, of this face-to-face interaction between whether it's consumer, wholesaler, retailer, distributor, manufacturer. That's really that piece that goes on in that room behind us that I think doesn't happen too often, and it's all been phone and emails.
Well, that phone, man, that phone's terrible. An email doesn't tell you the inflection on the other end of the human element, and I think that's the thing about the face-to-face, is you get that opportunity to see the human, and the human see you, if you're his rep or not, or his or her rep or not, and you have the opportunity to sell yourself in a matter of minutes as a human, not a voice.
Yeah.
And I think that's what happens at these places.
So if we're sitting and we're talking, and maybe there's somebody out there right now that's either just getting into the industry, either through wholesale or retail, or thinking about getting into it, what would be some advice? And maybe they're on the fence. I don't know if I would go to a trade show in this space, whether it's us or somebody else. And honestly, to me, that human interaction is so important. What's your advice to somebody sitting on the fence right now?
I think if you have the ability to come, if you got the money, if you've got the need, if you've got people that can back you up while you're gone, even if it's just a 2-day trip, one day to travel there, one day to go to the event, maybe even leave at night.
Yeah.
And I think you get a tremendous amount of value to do that by getting here, because you can buy as much as you want to online. If you don't touch it, you don't talk to that person about it, you don't get to know the whole thing, because you're just purchasing, oh, that gummy looks great, or oh, this looks nice, this is a piece of pipe, this is nice.
Right.
That's the failure of the business, because then you're not one-on-one understanding more of what you can know. Because there's a lot of information I have gotten at trade shows that has expanded my business. And everybody, I don't see that here, but I mean, like with the glass industry, and that's how I started. I started in glass. We made all of our real money in glass, and now the industry has changed so much. It's beautiful to see the evolve.
It's an important category.
But I think now with the gummies and things, you need to speak to someone and not just be buying willy-nilly. And I think the importance of coming and talking to someone face to face, understanding that it's not just the sales sheet, this is what else they can tell you that's not on the sales sheet.
Yeah. This is why we do what we do, is because we think that it's really 3 or 4 reasons. One, this industry as a whole has an issue marketing.
Right.
There's so many restrictions on what you can say, what you can publish,
Facebook's
what you can
terrible.
do. Any social media, mass media is very difficult. The traditional TV, radio, billboards, magazines. So we know that it's very difficult for a lot of these manufacturers and what we would consider exhibitors to get their messaging out there. So when you could put 200-300 of them in a room and then invite the masses to come interact, that's the missing piece sometimes, that they don't always have an opportunity to talk to the masses.
Right.
And it's a lot of it's through the phone, which is a disconnect. So now, if I'm a store owner locally, I come in here, and not only do I get to meet the manufacturer, I get to maybe find out what's next that they're rolling out, because these guys are constantly innovative.
Man, you know, and for them to show you prototypes, I've seen that here this time. I've seen these guys show, hey, listen, this isn't out for sale yet, but we're going to re-rolling this out in the next 30 to 45 days.
Yep.
I'm blown away.
Yeah.
You know, wow, you do that? Yeah, we're showing you this. We don't have the packaging done. It's a clear package. We don't have any of that done. Here, take this with you and try it, see what you think. And, you know, the amount of samples I've received is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And so you didn't see that. At one time at your competitor, you saw that, then it stopped. You know, and now these guys here, they're blown away. It's so much. I'm watching people leave. Like, you can see these bags right now, they're full.
Yeah, they're full.
They're full.
Yes.
And so what those are calling cards.
Exactly.
That's going to sell that 10 times over. And so this people right here, this guy, he's got 2 who in his hand is full, man.
Yeah, he does.
I mean, like, he's got enough gummies, man, to feed the children. But you shouldn't though. But go
No,
ahead.
yeah.
But anyway,
21 and over.
and so he's going to exactly 21 and over. And hopefully that's the way it stays. And then that's another thing, man. You know, we really need to be honest about it. This is
100%.
it's an adult product.
It's an adult product.
You know,
We
and
have
let's don't
signage
kid
everywhere.
ourselves. Let's don't kid ourselves. It's an adult product, and you know, even though these colorful colors, you know, we're still humans too. We're attracted to color.
Sure.
You know, and it doesn't mean it's for children. It means it's colorful, and that's what sells.
Yes. And again, I think it goes back to, because of the limits on what they can do marketing,
Right.
they have to do something that catches the eye.
Right.
So it's usually very colorful, very loud, very, you know, fun type of
Right.
branding.
Fun.
It's
Fun.
fun. And that ends up catching a little bit of that microscope or that telescope of like, well, now we got to keep an eye on you because that looks like it should be.
It looks like it's too much fun.
Correct.
You know,
because as adults,
why are we
we're
being
not allowed to have fun.
Exactly. Why are we having too much fun here? You're an adult product. You're not supposed to have any fun.
Right.
You know, that's ridiculous.
It is ridiculous.
You know.
You know, one of the things I think that's also fun about trade shows is that when a local store owner might be owns 1, 2, 10 stores, when he gets to meet that manufacturer, the vendors and the exhibitors, they're very motivated to make deals as well. You'll
Right.
usually
Oh, I
find
know.
on the show floor some amazing specials and discounts that you're probably not going to get through a phone call.
Right. Well, you know, they talk about, you know, if you call these manufacturers, they'll say, well, the show special was this, but, you know, we're not offering that because you wasn't at the show, and this is what we can do for you today. You just feel the letdown.
Yeah.
So when you show up for the show, that's I think the main draw for it, honestly,
Business.
is what's the show special. That's my first question.
Yeah.
Hey, what's the show special? And then they tell you, but sometimes, man, some of these guys is good. They come out, hey, this is our show specials, blah, 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 just letting you know before we start the conversation.
Yeah.
I can't even complain.
Listen, I think that for a vendor and an exhibitor to come to a trade show, it's an investment, right? So
Yes.
they're buying their booth, they're buying their real estate, they're flying their team in, they're shipping tons of materials through pallets that
Right.
have to be received and then delivered to their booth. So they are extremely motivated to
move
meet
it
a new
all,
store,
to sell it all.
and to have that unbelievable deal that you would never get elsewhere.
Yeah. I mean, you know, it's at a trade show, it's the Black Friday special.
Agreed.
No matter what. And we're trying to move as much of it as we humanly can. They really don't even want to put it in the catalog.
Right.
They want to sell every bit of it and be done with it.
Well,
and
they
move
don't
on
want to
the
have to
next.
put it back in a box and ship it back
again.
and pay
the
for that.
logistics. Yeah,
Correct.
the logistics of it.
You know, your messaging out there right now is for like people that are in and new to get in, right?
Right.
That's
Yes.
your audience that you're
That's
talking
who I
to.
want.
You own a store, you own 5 stores, 10 stores, starting to think about a store.
Right.
A lot of the vendors and exhibitors that we've dealt with over the last several years, because this industry is still new, it's still a baby industry. You know, alternative products in this form have only been around for not very long.
Nope.
So you have a lot of new startup companies, even on the exhibitor side, that come there and they want to have their products in these stores. And that's where we find ourselves a lot, is like, hey, if you follow certain ideas and practices, like doing an unbelievable show special,
Right.
tell people that you're going to be in town. You got a store that you've been trying to call.
Use your social.
Correct.
Use your TikTok. Use
Yeah.
your Instagram. Let these people know you're going to do it,
Right.
and they'll come.
Yeah. And that's what's really important for us to continue to get more attendees. It's just a nice little relationship between our exhibitors, our attendees. You know, as a company, we say we do 2 things. You know, we have exhibitors, and we put attendees in the room to talk to the exhibitors.
sure.
That's all we do.
You know, we only had a week's notice to come and do this, and we started putting it out immediately. We're going to be there, and if you watch my show, you're going to see a whole lot of the interviews that I've done here. I have met at least 40 viewers here. They've stopped me in the hallway. They've stopped me in the lane, and we just stop and talk. And that's what and we want to see. That I'm so glad that I told them I was going to do this. I just didn't see that this was going to be as big of a deal to me as it is. I just love the fact this show you can talk to everybody, and I'm watching them talk to each other. Like sitting out here, in the tables and talking to each other, having a little fellowship, talking about their things. I'm watching vendors eat lunch out here with them.
Yep.
And it's crazy watching them all intermingle, and because you don't see that in other shows.
Yeah,
and I'm seeing that here. It's almost family friendly. You know what I'm saying? Like smoke shop friendly, family friendly.
We want to make sure that when people come here, they're here to enjoy. That there's not a high pressure situation. That people aren't being annoyed. It's not a weird vibe.
Exactly.
Chad, I can't wait for our relationship to continue.
Me too, man.
I think it was exciting meeting you. I'm super excited to have you here.
I'm excited with the show, and I'm telling you, if you haven't been to one of these, I haven't. This is my first ride, and I'm going to come regardless, but I love this. I love the openness of it. It's clean. Oh, the floors are clean too, by the way.
Yeah, nice carpet
in case I didn't tell you. Yes, you're not walking on concrete. My feet aren't even beginning to hurt. It's a smaller show. Don't get me wrong. But I feel like I've gotten more done.
Yeah.
I feel like I've been able to talk to people. I feel like, it's clean. It's not loud. There is some music playing. Don't get me wrong. And it's still a good time. And I'm hearing people laugh where you can't hear that with the loud music, right? And I feel, just watching the people aren't, wore out looking. They're getting things done. They're eating out here. They're talking, like I said. And it's pretty odd to see that at a trade show.
Yeah. For us, that's kind of how we built this company, is having some fun. It's one of our core values is enjoying the ride.
I like it. And I see you all out there too, by the way.
Yeah, we make sure that we're constantly
in. I see you guys all walking out there, which that's odd too. That's odd too.
I guess.
For other shows, it's odd. It's odd to see the promoter and the people involved in it be out there in the middle of it unless there's a problem. And so to see you guys out there intermingling with the public and everything, I love that too.
Yeah.
And I think it speaks to the company. And I think, in having this right here and being able to talk, and I'm sure you all have had quite a few people that you've talked to.
Yeah, we've had
and
some
you
great
got a lot
folks.
of content too.
Yes.
And so I'm sure this is a great environment for you guys as well. But I've enjoyed it.
Well,
I have definitely enjoyed it.
And we've definitely enjoyed having you here.
Well,
We're off to Vegas next. We'll be there in September.
Me
I know
too.
that we'll be seeing you there.
Me too. I will be
know
there.
we'll be talking a bunch between now and then as well.
For sure.
Super excited to get all of your feedback on this event, because I know that you're somebody who's been to many of these events.
I've got a little. But I think it's a growth possibility talk. I'll just tell you, I can't see anything wrong.
All right, well,
that's the good thing here. I can't see anything wrong, but I want to add.
Yeah.
I want to add some
Think about it for a second,
right.
maybe.
Well, we'll see. We'll see.
Chad, I appreciate you so much for being on here.
Thank you so much for having
Thanks
me.
again.
I appreciate you so much.
Alternative Products Expo, just wrapping up Dallas on day 3. We'll be in Las Vegas in September. Hope to see you all there. Bye now.
See ya.
As the industry continues to evolve, so will we, bringing you the latest trends, innovations, and stories from the front lines. Don't forget to share this podcast with your friends, family, and industry peers to help us spread the word and continue to grow this community. Thank you for being a part of the Alternative Products Podcast.